Good morning, everyone. It's Jem Hansen here, and Erica Van Schellebeck is with me. I hope there's people in the room and that you can hear me. I'm seeing there's 7 participants, which is great. 8, so more coming now. There's 11. Great. So people are coming on board on time, and we'll get started in a minute or so. You can just see those numbers are increasing as I speak. So, yeah, we will just give it a few seconds while people are joining in. And then we'll get started. And thank you for joining us. I hope you're all well in the places that you're at.
Hi, everyone. We will, once we've sort of said hello, we're going to turn our videos off so you guys can just concentrate on the PowerPoint presentation. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Hello, virtually. Nice to meet you all virtually.
Okay, the number seems to have settled at around 15, 16. So I think we might as well get started. I'd like to start by paying respects to the elders past and present and future in all the places where we are. I think everyone is in New South Wales, but I'm not too sure. So from wherever your place is, let's just take a moment to pay those respects. And welcome again to the webinar about the New South Wales Environmental Trust's Environmental Education Tier 2 grants. As Erica said, we weren't going to leave our videos live. I'm actually down at my father's house on the south coast of New South Wales with the lovely wallpaper in the background. So I had to travel down for a sort of family situation there. Very much hoping and quite confident, dare I say, touch wood, that the internet connection will work fine. But Erica is well capable of managing the webinar if I do have a problem here. So apologies for that if that does happen, but I think it should be fine. It's been working well with other things to date. So anyway, yeah, so I might turn my video off now, and I will say hello again or pop up again later, maybe when we're doing some Q&A at the end. So the format for today is half an hour, 40 minutes of running through the details of the applicant's the application process and the project process, and then some Q&As at the end. So I'll do some of the housekeeping and introduction stuff first, and that'll explain how the system works today. And obviously here on the first slide, we've got the sort of sequence of topics for the webinar. We'll look at the background to the new Tier 2 grants, why it's been created or changed to how it is, the phases of those grants, the application process and dates, some information about how to go about filling out your full application forms. And I should say congratulations to you all for reaching that invited application stage 2. And then the practical guide is a separate document, which hopefully you've all seen and had a look at. It's a sort of support material for your application and for running your projects. We'll look at the assessment criteria and what happens next if you're successful in being offered a grant. Some wrapping up with some things to sort of in particular to remember and addressing frequently asked questions. We'll outline what support's available for applicants in this stage and in the coming stages for successful applicants, and then at the end we'll address questions. Thanks, Erica. This is being recorded, so if you need to leave early, you can always come back and watch the recording. And for those who couldn't make it, everyone on the contact list with the Trust will be sent the link to this recording within 24 hours. So the Q&A for today, it's not interactive with audio or with your video. It's a webinar where we're sending that out. But what you can do is write your questions about the grant process or documents by using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And I'll keep an eye on those through the webinar. But I think we'll tackle them all at the end, unless there's something that really warrants an interruption of our sort of pre-prepared slides. We'll save the questions for the end, but type them in as we go, as they occur to you, using the Q&A function at the bottom. Now, these things can look different on different systems, but usually if you move your mouse or maybe tap on your screen or something, that's what will prompt a little a section at the bottom to pop up where you'll have the Q&A link. It could be located at the side or top on your system, but sometimes it does require some movement on the screen to make that option pop up. So yeah, we'll address those questions at the end, I think. Because this is a competitive grant program, we encourage you not to ask questions specifically about your project. It's more about the process and the support and the guidelines and those sort of aspects. If there are questions that I see come through that are specific to your project, I will probably just put those to the side and address those with you one-on-one after the event. So AAEE New South Wales is the Australian Association for Environmental Education New South Wales chapter, and we've been engaged by the New South Wales Environmental Trust to help develop this new grant program for Tier 2 environmental education, and also to provide support for invited applicants and grant recipients for about 12 months. So not through your whole potentially five-year project, but for the first year or so, there will be a support service available. And if it's warranted and can be funded, that may continue. But at the moment, the support's available for invited applicants and for the first approximately 12 months of your project. So my email address is up there, and that's how we can provide the personalised support for the specifics of your project. So the background for the new grants program, I'm not going to run right through here, but you can have a scan through that. And again, this is recorded, and the next slide, I believe, has an image and a link to the actual research document that UTS, the Institute for Public Policy and Governance, and the Institute for Sustainable Futures produced as an evaluation of the Trust's environmental education program. And what that evaluation found, and there's a lot of detail in the report that you can look at if you're interested, but was that the program's well regarded and well managed, and there is a need for it. There's a market gap, so very much an important program, but that it could be adjusted and improved in a number of ways to reflect contemporary best practice environmental education. And it did have a recommendation about incorporating transformative learning for sustainability principles and practices, which is about sort of values-based engagement methods and the use of a clear program logic. So that's the link there to the evaluation report. And look, I might not spend more time on that, but if you are struggling with some of those concepts or theories and you're interested to find out more about that, I'm very happy, again, through our support provision to the Trust for invited applicants, happy to work through that with you in more detail. And it's not just me. I've referred to myself as providing the support, but we have a team of people with a range of backgrounds and knowledge, well and truly above and beyond my own. So that's who's providing that support. So the new Tier 2 grants are for between $60,000 and $250,000 for projects running from 3 to 5 years. Tier 1 is for up to $60,000, but we are today talking exclusively about Tier 2 grants. Projects are expected to address the systemic causes of problems. They're expected to include social research or co-design in project development. They're expected to move beyond just the simple workshops and educational materials and move towards more engaging, experiential and personally transformative activities. We want to really emphasise today that taking risks and trialling innovative ideas is really the point here of these larger environmental education grants. Not all projects need to be brand new. They can certainly be built on a foundation of something successful, but it is the emphasis of the grant program to develop new ways and better ways of doing things, and taking risks and adapting along the way through the new research and testing phases that we're building in is a really important component of that. So yeah, the next point is they're conducting small-scale field tests, prototyping, piloting of ideas, and amending project plans based on the learnings is a sort of new stage that we've built into the Tier 2 grant process prior to the full implementation of the project. Projects are expected to leave a sustained legacy in environments or systems that assist long-term shifts in human or organisational behaviours. And of course, there needs to be measurement and reporting on the impact on the environmental problem that they're addressing, as well as changes to organisational systems in this case. We'll talk a bit more about that later. So an important outcome we're looking for from all these projects is transformations in thinking and assumptions by the project teams themselves. So it's not all about the target audience, it's about the people involved in the project, and building this sort of understanding and appreciation of what their target audience is going through, and a sort of a deeper level of understanding and engagement with that target audience, I suppose. Grantees will work through with the Trust Administration and leading environmental education and behaviour change experts for up to 12 months, investigating and planning their projects in line with these expectations. So that's the new research and testing phase, which comes first after grantees are successful and before the stage of what we're calling full implementation. The Environmental Education Grants Program Tier 2 guidelines, the link is there. I'm sure you've all, you're all aware of it at least, whether you've had a chance to look at it or not. We don't know, but that has the core information about the program. Erica, I'm not sure whether this was the time when you were going to step in on this one. I can't see the slide numbers, so the spot where we were going to swap, I'm not sure if it's now or next.
I can do it from now. That's just fine.
Does that suit you? Yeah, I'll leave this one.
Jem. Great. Okay, so as Jem has already mentioned, there are 3 project phases for Tier 2 grants. Your research phase, which is for desktop and social research, and this is strongly encouraged. And the findings from your research should make you change and refine your plans for your testing phase. So this is seen as a good thing, and the Trust encourage you to do this. Then you have your testing phase, which is about testing your key engagement strategies. This is compulsory, and you have 3 to 12 months to complete your combined research and testing phases, and you just indicate in the form how much time you need for each. Your findings from your testing should again make you change or refine your plans for your implementation phase. So change is good. The Trust encourage you to do this. And then the implementation phase, doing your whole project, you have 2 to 4 years to do this, and your whole project team will be expected to reflect on how the project is going for each progress report that you have to do, and to once again, adaptively manage your project based on your reflections. So the Trust want to see that you're doing this, and this is encouraged. So look, you should have received all of these following documents from the Trust. You should have received your application form, your invited applicants form, and your budget forms. You should have received feedback from the Technical Review Committee for you to address in your full application. That's really important to do that. Answer that well, and we've got a little bit more on that later. And you should have also received the document Creating Change Through Your Environmental Education Project, the practical guide. We refer to this as the practical guide. So you need to email your application, including all the parts to that address, apply@environmentaltrust.newsouthwales.gov.au by 3 p.m. Monday, the 21st of October. There are no exceptions to this closing date. Just reiterating some of those instructions, you need to have the latest version of Adobe Reader installed to fill out the form. So just visit the Adobe website to ensure you have the latest version, because if you don't, it can impact the way that you can use the form. And don't use Acrobat Pro. Please answer every question. If it's not applicable, just write not applicable or briefly explain why. Otherwise, a blank box looks like you haven't filled out your application form fully. Please don't expand the boxes to accommodate additional text. They're set to a certain size so that the technical review committee have a set amount of information to review. Type only in the spaces provided in the form. The Trust will shortly email you a new form which has more rows added in the tables. But if you do find that as you're filling out your tables and you need more rows added, please just contact Nick Kingham at the Trust, who has been your contact there. So answering the application form questions. They've been structured in a way to provide an overall picture of your project. As you step through and fill in the application form, that will actually step you through refining your program logic and defining your program logic. And it will also develop a outcomes hierarchy evaluation framework for your project. So the questions about what are the environmental outcomes, what are the systemic and behavioural changes, what are the immediate participation changes, what are your project activities and project resources, they are actually a deconstructed outcomes hierarchy evaluation framework. So there are guidance notes for many of the questions in the form. You'll see those, and many of them refer to the Tier 2 practical guide that you were emailed. So that's that creating change through your environmental education project. So that's what the practical guide looks like. That's the front cover, and we're just going to just run through that a little bit now. The practical guide has been written specifically to help you develop your program logic and your evaluation framework, and to help you fill out your invited application form. The invited applicants form has been developed in conjunction with the practical guide. So please use this guide. Obviously, everyone has different levels of expertise in this. So there may be some things that are very basic for you, and that's fine, but please just refer to the guide when filling out the form. It has been written by the A2E2 New South Wales project team, and it has namely been written by behaviour change expert Les Robinson. And the guide essentially really helps to explain what transformational learning for sustainability means, because this is, it's a relatively new idea and theory. And there is a lot of theoretical information, and as Jem pointed out in the Trust Guidelines document, there's information at the end there in the appendix. There's a few pages about the theory behind transformational learning for sustainability. So please have a look at that. But our practical guide, as the name suggests, is there to provide you with a practical sense for what it all means for your project, for designing your project, for researching your project, and for testing your project. There's a number of examples, checklists and key points. Hopefully you're all becoming quite familiar with that document by now. But I'm just going to run through just a few key things just for your project team to make sure that they refer to. So this is the figure 1, which is a figure showing the program logic of a best practice environmental education project. Each one of those boxes, apart from the inputs at the bottom, each of those boxes matches the tables that you have to fill out in your invited applicants form. So the form starts at the top, environmental outcome, and then works its way down. That's a good figure to sort of, have by your side as you're working through your invited applicants form, so that you can really get that sense of what all those boxes all join up to create. And that's your program logic. There's a program logic checklist, which really sort of helps to spell out that these Tier 2 projects are really about creating systemic and behavioural changes. So in the past, the environmental education grants have generally focused on behavioural changes, but this is now being included to have systemic changes as well. And you can see there's a list on the left there of systemic strategies, and then a list on the right of behavioural strategies. You can see there are stronger behavioural strategies and weaker behavioural strategies. The weaker ones don't necessarily mean that you shouldn't use those strategies, but there's information in the guide around why you would not want to rely on those behavioural strategies for your project. And then for those who have looked at the guide, this is at the front, and then you have a whole chapter which gives examples of all those different systemic strategies and all of those different behavioural strategies. Then when you get to the end of that chapter, that section of the practical guide, there's another figure 3, which really shows you how you want to use a mix of systemic and behavioural strategies in your project. And that's, you can see that quite clearly there. So hopefully that will assist you in filling out your invited applicants form. There's also a checklist on transformative experiences and a whole chapter through there with lots of ideas that you'll be certainly very familiar with. And we won't go through the rest of the guide because it is quite long, and everyone has different knowledge and experience there. So some things to remember. As I said before, answer the questions that the Technical Review Committee, sorry about that acronym there, answer any of the questions from your expression of interest form that the Technical Review Committee has given you. Answer them as thoroughly as possible, and please ensure that the answers are reflected within the form. The Technical Review Committee will look at this very carefully, and if they feel that if you haven't answered the questions, that will not be very helpful for how they rate your application, and they want to see that that your response has actually been built in to the project. Another tip there. Confirm your collaborators and try to get a good mix of collaborators who know your target audience and who have connections with them. You will need to provide written confirmation expressing the commitment offered by each of your collaborators. This is very important. So remember those two things. In terms of FAQs, frequently asked questions that that the Trust has had so far, haven't been very many, and Jem covered that FAQ about just having you're expected to have a solid project plan in your invited applicants form, but then you are encouraged to adaptively manage your project plan in response to what you find out from your research and testing throughout the project. So the assessment criteria, this is all outlined in the trust guidelines document that we looked at the start. I'm not going to read through all of these, but this is important for you to keep in mind when you're, I suppose, when you've filled out your whole invited applicants form. Go through these assessment criteria and just have a think about whether you feel that your form covers these, because these are the criteria that the Technical Review Committee use to score your application. So the first criteria is tangible environmental outcome. Second criteria is your target audience, so showing that you have a clearly specified target audience and that you have understanding of your target audience. The third criteria is your project team and collaborators. The fourth criteria is your project planning. And your fifth criteria is value for money. So if you are successful, you'll be notified in February 2020, and you will work with the Trust Administration to prepare reports and require documentation. There's a funding agreement. You will have to do a plan for your research and testing phases. Then you will have to report on your research and testing phases. And you will develop a work plan and project measures document. The progress reports occur approximately every 12 months. And when you send in your progress report, you send in your invoice for each grant instalment. And then dependent on how your progress report is received, the grant instalment will be authorised. So it is important to pay good attention to your progress report and to put effort into doing that report, because your grant instalments will only be authorised if you've sent in a solid report. And the trust does really encourage you to reflect in those reports, or for you to bring them up and have a chat to them about any issues that you're experiencing. So grantees will be supported to develop their research and testing plan and their work plan in a workshop run by the Trust and AAEE New South Wales in early 2020. As Jem has highlighted, grantees will also have access to an email and phone support service provided by the association for approximately the first 12 months of the project. So the confidential support for invited applicants that Jem has highlighted, there's the email address there. It's exec@aaenewsouthwales.org.au. Any questions you have about your project proposal will be referred to the AAEE New South Wales project team. And as Jem has explained, that project team has worked with the Trust to create the new Tier 2 grant process. Jem will refer your question to this team, and he can either call you or email you with a response. It's whatever suits you best. We really want to highlight that your questions will not be disclosed to the Technical Review Committee. So the Technical Review Committee are the independent group who assess your grant applications and decide which projects will get funded. But the New South Wales Environmental Trust staff are not part of this Technical Review Committee. So any questions that you ask the Trust about will not impact on your grant, on how your grant application is assessed by the Technical Review Committee. And any questions that you ask A²E² New South Wales about your application will not be disclosed to the Technical Review Committee. So I suppose we're just really encouraging you to utilise the support that the Trust offer and utilise the support that A²E² New South Wales offer, because that has no impact on how your project will be assessed, and hopefully the support that you receive will help you to send in a more confident invited applicants form and application. So we have gone through the information quite quickly, which is good because we're all busy people. And we're now up to any questions and answers that people might have. So I'll just hand that over to Jem to see what people are sending in. Thanks, Jem.
Yeah, thank you. So jump on, a few people joined just after our very early introduction stuff. So a reminder to everyone that if you move your mouse or touch your screen or something, a little panel should become available with a Q&A button where you can click on that and then type in a question. So if anyone wants to jump in there, we've only got one to address so far. And so another reminder to people who came in a little late that this presentation will be sent to everyone. It's being recorded, so you'll get a link to access that. And I believe we'll also be sending or making available the PowerPoint slideshow itself that we've just run through. So, so yeah, you'll be getting those. So to the questions, we have one. Can you tell us a little more about what you expect from the initial research phase? How is the social research component of the initial phase different from the testing phase? Yes, a good question, and all about the new aspect of this grant program. So I'll have a try to sort of answer that how I feel, and Erica, you might have a think about that for a second and jump into on that one. I think I'd have a few things to say on that one, which is, firstly, we will have a workshop, a facilitated workshop to help you develop a detailed research and testing plan. But I'm aware that you need to write something in your invited application to outline what you propose to do. And so you need to know the answer, but just bear in mind, I suppose, that it's an outline at this stage, and you will have support and a more detailed process of actually formulating that full research and testing plan. Also, the answer to that question depends a lot on the scale of the project. So we're looking at projects from 60,000 over 3 years, maybe, to 250,000 over 5 years. So how much research and testing you do, will be influenced a lot by the scale of the project. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that, but my phone just started ringing. It's gone now. And then the other important element to remember is the research phase isn't compulsory. So some of you might have enough research to lean on to not feel you need to do a dedicated research component in your project. The testing component is compulsory. The research component is recommended. So with all those sort of variables, it's a little bit tricky to give a clear answer to the question there. But I think, yes, Erica, yep.
Let me know when you'd like me to jump in.
Yeah, jump in now. Yep.
All right, awesome. So look, I'd really direct everyone to the practical guide. So creating change through your environmental education project. You'll see there's a section on page 30, doing social research with your target group. There's a few pages in there, and there are some key points at the end about what you aim to be achieving from your social research. And then there's a section testing your project on page 33 of the practical guide, and which again has examples there. So look, your social research is really about making sure your social research is about engaging with your target audience, talking to your target audience to find out whether the activities, the engagement activities that you've proposed are going to be received well by them. Do they fit with their values? and you can see in that section on social research, there's different kinds of social research. So you can do interviews, so one-on-one conversations, you can do focus groups, you might do field observation, where you watch what people are doing. You can also do it yourself, so try out, the interventions that you're proposing. You might like to do co-design, where you invite your audience to help you design the project with your team. And you can, of course, also do questionnaires. So there's a whole section in there which, as you read through, will help you to really understand what you're trying to gain from the social research section. And I draw your attention to the questions. There's a list of suggested questions that you would ask your target audience on page 31 under the section interviews. So, the kinds of questions you're asking people is, what is their personal experience of the situation? What might enable personal change? What ideas do they have? What do they think about your proposed solution? What do their peers say about the problem? There's a whole range of questions there, and it's really just to ensure that as environmental educators, we're not launching into programs that are based on our assumptions and our understanding of the target audience, because if we're not actually part of that target audience, we're making a whole range of assumptions there, and it's really about trying to find out before you do the program that something is not going to work or be well received. And that then leads us into the testing. Testing your project is about testing your key engagement activities that are at the centre of the program. And so when you do your research and you ask your target audience about your proposed key engagement activity, you should be really quite prepared for them to indicate to you that they're not interested in what you might be proposing, and that's then that opportunity to refine and adapt what you're going to do based on what you found out. So read through all of this information in the practical guide. There are links to whole heaps of information in there. You'll see there's hyperlinks throughout the whole guide. So that's probably enough to answer that question. And if once you've gone through all of that, and if you're still feeling unsure, that's when you should certainly email A2E New South Wales, send that email to Gem, and you can be provided with more support.
Thanks, Erica. I hope that does answer the question. There's certainly a lot of information in the resources there. There's two more on the research sort of and testing things, Erica, that I'll throw to you.
Sure.
What is the timing of the research and testing phase expected to be? Could you just clarify that again for us?
There's you can do your research and testing. You can complete your research and testing phases anywhere within 3 months to 12 months. So it's up to you what that mix is, whether you want to spend 3 months doing your social research and you want to spend 9 months doing your testing, or if you want to spend 2 weeks or 1 month doing your social research and 2 months doing your testing. The guide there is between 3 to 12 months.
Thank you. And if there's been some social research done already, can we utilise that and have a smaller testing phase?
You'll see in the invited applicants form that you can choose to, you can say that you've already done your social research, and that you don't feel that you need to do a social research phase. But, guys, I would just encourage you to, I would really encourage you to look really closely at the social research that's already been done, because you would want your social research to be done specifically about what you are proposing in your project. So what the transformative experiences in your engagement activities that you're utilising. If you choose not to use this opportunity to receive funding to carry out social research, you really want to be crystal clear and know that that what you are proposing, you have checked in with your target audience about your key engagement strategies. So yeah, you know, use it as an opportunity. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but basically you are receiving you can receive funding to do this, and it will strengthen your project. So no, it's not compulsory, but it is strongly encouraged.
Great. Okay, just one more reminder, people, you can still add questions in if you like. We're running probably 10 minutes ahead, so we've probably got 5 minutes to go unless more questions pop up. So we'd be finishing a little early. We do have time for more. These other ones, there's 3 more there, Erica, and they're on different topics. So a couple of easy ones, I think. Do we need written quotes attached to the application? I believe that's a firm no. Do you have further comment on that, Erica?
That is correct. You don't have to. I'm pretty sure that's correct, but we can clarify that. I'll just have a little look through. The last page of your invited applicants form is the one that you need to pay attention to, because that outlines specifically all of the documents that you need to attach. So if that last form does not say you need written quotes, then that's what you need to refer to. But I can have a little look.
Yeah. Okay, you dig that up now for us if you don't mind, Erica, and I'll tackle this next one, which is been meaning to check in the guidelines, but can you answer, can a project collaborator be a referee as well? Look, I guess there are cases where that might be okay, but typically the answer to that from me, I would say, and again, we could double check with the trust if it's critical. So the person who asked that question, if this is something very important to you, let me know by email and I can chase it up. But usually a collaborator is heavily invested in the project, not necessarily cash, but is a key sort of participant, and so therefore wouldn't really be appropriate as an external referee. So I'd say keep your collaborators and referees as separate people. But again, as I said, if it's something that is important to you, or then let me know. And the last question then, other than the one we're going back to with Erica, is can you expand on what constitutes value for money?
What constitutes value for money?
It's about demonstrated benefit, isn't it? So one way to demonstrate more value for money is to have a higher in-kind or financial contribution from the grant recipient or the collaborators. Obviously, if you're getting $100,000 from the trust and there is another $100,000 coming from other participants, then you're likely to be demonstrating good value for money because more money is being invested for the trust's investment. Other than that, I think good value for money means a good project with good outcomes compared to the number of dollars put into it. So I don't know. It's not a great answer. Erica, do you have a way to articulate that?
Look, I suppose I would really say that just pay attention to whether the technical review committee made specific reference to your budget. So the technical review committee assessed your applications based not only on your expression of interest form, but also the proposed budget that you put in there. So so if they did ask about that, that's probably a bit of a flag that you need to change something there. But otherwise, yeah, it's a difficult one to really say specifically, and I think Jem said that sort of as best as possible. If you do have something you're specifically not sure about, you know, you can email A squared E squared, or you can email Nick about that, and to get the trust perspective on that.
I think another thing to do is take a step back from your project and look at the total dollars involved, the number of people being reached, and the types of change you're expecting to achieve, and just see if it stacks up. You know, the pub test, does it seem like it would be good value for money to you? How did you go with the written quotes one, Erica? Was there something on the checklist on the last page of the form?
Yes, I'll just
actually, we can come back to that one. One more has
yeah.
popped up. So if you take this one, I'll dig up that form. Would you recommend paying an expert in research, project evaluation and testing to assist, or does AAE provide this service, but only for 12 months? So that's clarifying the role of the AAE support service, and whether they would engage someone else to help with that period as well. I'll leave that one with you for a sec, Erica.
Sure. Look, A squared E squared is not your substitute for your project team, if that helps to answer that question. You know, we're there to support you to help develop your research and testing plan, and to develop your work plan. But if you feel like within your project team, you don't have the expertise in you know, in social research, then you're most welcome to, you know, include that in your application, you know, to budget in for that. So maybe that's one a question that we can delve into a little bit more specifically about your projects through the support services. But look, the aim of the support that AAEE will provide you with is that you can do it yourself. So we really don't want these grants, the new research and testing phases, to make people feel like they have to, you know, pay for experts to come in and assist them to do that. And particularly with the testing, you know, we would really hope that whoever is working on the project, it would be very logical for those people to be doing the testing, because you know, you need to have the skills and capacity to you know, to understand your target audience, and it will help you to understand your target audience. So yeah, maybe we can go into that a little bit more through an individual email, and have a bit more of a chat with you about that. And we've had some great, a little bit of trust feedback about the value for money question, which is excellent. So thank you for that. It's just a suggestion with the value for money. It may be supported by showing that other costs may be saved. So, you know, if there's money spent by a council, you know, if one of your collaborators is putting money into the project, and that reduces the cost of another part of the trust grant, then that's another good way to sort of show that value for money, as Jem said, that other organisations are putting their time, are putting their effort, and may also be putting you know, other resources, putting many other resources into the grant project.
Thanks, Erica. I think we might be done. I did have a look at their form, and I can't find. There's no reference that I'm aware of to attaching quotes. So it does say additional information can be attached. Keep it to a minimum. I don't think quotes are what is intended with that suggestion. What I might do is I've made notes for a little follow-up information to all applicants around quotes and around engaging support for the research and testing phase that Erica just talked about. So we'll send out a little bit more clarity or information to everyone on those two aspects of what has come up today. And we don't have any more questions there, so we're just a few minutes early, but I think we might move on to the wrap up. Yeah. So, Erica, I'll see. Just did you have any final words other than what's on this slide here in front of us?
No, just good luck. We know how much work is involved. We've all done big grant applications like this, so good luck. Ask questions, use the support that the Trust and A Squared, E Squared New South Wales are offering, and really become very familiar with that, with the different documents. So yes, good luck.
Yeah. I'll say the same. Good luck to everyone, and thanks for joining us today. Or if you're viewing this later, thanks for taking the time to try to absorb the information. We do know there's a lot, and I very much hope to hear from you to help with some further support. And if you could do the attendee feedback questionnaire there, that would be greatly appreciated. So all the best, everyone, and yeah, look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye-bye.
So we're just getting some more people filling in the poll, which is great. So we'll just leave the webinar open until we see if we can get up to the full amount. Okay, great. Jem, I'm going to just stop the webinar now because we've got the full amount of people who are viewing have given their feedback. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend and good luck with your application.